Welcome back, audience. Hope you're doing good. I hope the audio recording is fine. Cheers. Agua de coco. I got something coco or coco, whichever you prefer, to talk about. Um, so you heard me before talking about there's only one ego, you know, which then you would also conclude that there's only one soul. And my question, is it so? The question that I'm asking is this, because this is what I'm observing to be the case, is that it's not like there are separate people who are sort of like individuals and they act out and they move and they have the drives that are their own and independent, and and that's just like they're unique. The reality is that in this hive mind, in this matrix, what I call it, or ego world, everything's based on the belief systems. And if you watch it, why people do things and why they move, you'll see that, oh my god, they are moving in a circle, uh, and they don't know what they're doing. They have this immediate motivation to seek this next thing, but the whole ego thing is building something. And if every single person is part of that stream, okay, and it is like, you can say, well, there are different people, right? Watch people carefully. You'll see that it's like in a video game, same parameters, same features, they all just put together differently, you see. And you'll find the same parameters, same features in every single person, and it's limited. And you'll find it's like, oh my god, like if a person is functioning from this hive mind, this ego matrix world, they function according very rigid and specific parameters. And wherever you go in the world, you'll find them. Of course, there are, levels of success. But if you see them, the modus operandi, you'll find that it's one and the same modus operandi through different permutations. And if you belong to that stream, that is the qualities that you're going to exude, I suppose. My teeth are shining. Okay, so that includes all your, these negative feelings, these emotions, these, uh, you know, superficial desires, and all these kind of things. It includes all of that as a stream of consciousness that I call ego, or the matrix. It is not yours, right? Because if you see that it's just only one mechanism, then you know that, like, oh, it's not yours, right? If you are not alchemizing the energies, you are simply become a subject to it, and you run this thing. But you are in the NPC mode. None of this, nothing in that stream is real. But listen carefully what I'm saying here, okay? Nothing. No matter how convincing it is, no matter how spiritual it looks, as long as it's part of the stream, it's functioning according to these laws, and it you will find it. This is why you see the people who are supposed to be like, spiritual leaders and whatnot, but you really dig down deep, you will always find just another matrix NPC schmuck playing the game. You see? Everything that belongs to that stream is the same thing. Now, then you say, okay, so what am I then? Like, if I plug into this stream, then I'm acting throughout these behaviors. It's almost like they're yours. And the point of it all is to see this whole thing as the game. It is the game. You come in here, the system's going to try to inject you with those, at the root cause, these negative feelings at the causal level, that itch, that drive to fix it. That creates the emotions, that creates the thoughts of your desires, that what you're imagining, and this is what creates the reality. Jesus, none of it is through your own doing. If the injection is successful and you act through these negative feelings, none of it is your own doing. Like, it's incredible. There's a lot to process. Like, if what I'm saying is true, there's a lot to process, and I'm still digesting it myself. But the more I'm looking at this, the more I'm seeing all sorts of confirmations that is the case. The more I'm like, what the fuck? So then, as you can see, the way out is through the eye of a needle. It becomes this thing. This is why alchemy is so important. Again, I'm just using this word, alchemy. The ancient way before the meditation was corrupted, they used to call it meditation. But meditation now does not mean that thing. Meditation means escape from it. Right? Which is another matrix trick to create the meditators, which is like a non-player character. You see what I'm trying to say? Dreaming about sheep jumping over the fence, essentially. No freedom in there. It's another escape. That's what meditation became to me. This is all the transcendental meditation, is all that stuff. There's nothing to do with what it really is. But if you place your attention and observe that thing which is you, and you look for yourself, like, where am I, right? At any point in time, you may find that there's nothing there, or if you're in the process of a negative feeling, you will find like, oh, this is like this. The center of me is this negative, incoherent feeling that it just does this, and then it spits out the emotion, spits out the thought. It's like, what the fuck is that, And you feel even that, like, that thing. But when you place your observation upon it, what that thing that observes, and that thing. And then there's an experience of this, like, elation, spaciousness, this weightlessness. So again, I'm just using words to relate to that. But there is something there, right? There's something where there's no, separate me. And there's this, and something is going on. Something is going on. That energy is there. You feel it. It's you're not controlling it. It is streaming. And that is the beginning of you turning online. Up to that point, or if you just slip under it, if you slip under it, that's, falling asleep again. And guess what? Your motivational mechanism is going to be immediately based on that. You may even see it and observe it. And sometimes I'm watching, it's like, oh my God, like, look, this is what's going to happen. My body is seeking this right now, or like my mind is seeking this right now. It's seeking this, it's seeking that. And it's like, you're back into this circus again. And then you go like, "Brrr," you know. It wasn't a motorboating. That's entirely different thing. Was shaking yourself awake. Okay. So what do we do from here? From here, we immediately see that thing that you discovered upon looking, the calibration, as I call it, and it seems that you need to keep on doing it and doing it and doing it, and you're looking at the game, the ego, as a potential energy that is trapped. The game traps the energy to run a simulation, but once you're out, or when you're part of it, and it's trying to inject that shit into you, you take it and you release that energy. Okay, when you release that energy, then it goes from the simulation, that you take the energy from the simulation into what you call we have to use another word for it, simulation and reality. Now normally we call simulation a reality. Everything that you see is a kind of a reality. Okay, we can use the reality as an umbrella word. Let's just define reality as anything in what we call physical reality. Okay, but it's none other than imagination restricted through the rule set of physics. And that is it. It's restricted to the rule set of physics. But in imagination, everything that you see, you can also see, but you can also move through walls, and it's like a creative mode and playing mode. Okay? But that's all it is. For example, I tell you something. Like, if you're in an astral reality, traveling through all sorts of, interesting realities that are created, they're real, but you can't call it reality because it's imaginality. That's what I like to call it. I think Thomas Campbell is calling it as well. Imaginality. I think it's an amazing word. Imagination kind of means something else, but imaginality is the reality that you are experiencing as if it's solid, real as this one, but at any moment you can break the rules of physics and rearrange it. But you pretend that it's not there, that you can't do it, and so it's reality then, right? The thing over there is that you can say, okay, now I want all these laws of physics frozen. I cannot fly anymore. I cannot walk through walls anymore, and that's what's going to be. Okay, so this reality, this physical reality, is exactly like that. Just it's asked to be that rule set is asked to be frozen. That, like, for example, I can't say, okay, now I'm bored of this. Let me try to be weightless and start flying. And so that doesn't happen just because you said so. But what you can do is you can astral project into this reality and experience it like that. Okay? So, which means there would be imaginality without that restriction of the rules of physics. So that's what it is. That's what reality is. Like, I define reality as such, as the rules of physics restricted. Imaginality, no rules of physics, no restriction, or that is option. It's an optional thing. Here it's not optional. In astral reality, in imaginality, it is optional. So you can sort of create a pseudo reality, which that at any point in time you could change it, but you don't. Okay? All right, so let's just... But you see the... you see the anyway, I don't want to blow your mind too much. Let's just stay on track. But I'm going to leave this to your own thought experiments to see the quite interesting joke about it. But for the sake of this video, we are separating reality, imaginality, okay? And then if you go deeper, you can call that causality, I like to call it meaning. It is this theurgical world that it is about feelings, emotions, and it's all about relationship. It's about your relationship to things, beings, people, entities. It's a relationship, and it's a meaning, and it's feeling. It's like if you have a type of, if you eating something and you're just enjoying this every single bite of it, the meaning is that enjoyment is the meaning. If you take that away, then it's just going to be you going through the motions and having just basic sensations without that enjoyment. The meaning is an enjoyment, or enjoyment is in the meaning. Okay. And then if you go ultimately upon alchemy, you always discover the truth or mystery. Truth and mystery is the same thing. 1 second. So we're back. Mystery, right? Which is a continuous unfolding thing that happens upon you calibrating your consciousness. You pop out. And then there's another world. There's the world of soul. Now, you still remain in this subject to the world of matrix. Okay? Matrix will still be injecting these things into you. Because it has the energy trapped as a cyclical motion for some people, right? But when you alchemize it, you release that energy and you create something different, which is usually what you create after the alchemy is the process of theurgy. And that is a meaning. I call it, there's another word to call meaning. Sometimes I call it harmonization. First calibration, then harmonization. And that is creating all these. It's actually the true form of art. Another word for it is beauty. And you create all of these different feelings, which I found out to be the relationship to something else besides you. It's the very definition of relationship. The meaning and relationship, the beauty, harmonization. These are all interchangeable words to describe this thing. Now, that's easy said and done. However, reality is that it is indeed one big stream of backward ass consciousness that you call matrix or simulation. It is not reality. Well, I should say it is not it is simulation, therefore it is not see, if simulation reality, and we need another word that is non-simulation reality, that is a spontaneous unfoldment. We need another word. And you may be even in the same room with the same people, and one person may be completely immersed into this thing and just moved by the matrix itself. And you may be in the same room and completely not moved by the matrix itself and seeing things directly, and everything is kind of sparkling and it feels incredible and amazing and stuff like that. You're seeing things as they are with full meaning, whereas other people may be just like, oh, go there, seek pleasure, avoid pain, seek pleasure, avoid pain. You see what I'm trying to say? Every single person, for example, if the person is like this, completely like an NPC, but if you can get their attention and they pop out of the NPC mode, then they have the Cinderella effect. They're gonna be in the space with you, tripping balls and saying, what the fuck is this, And psychedelics simulate that. It's not real. That's what I have to say. Like I used to be, psychedelic is the shit, and like this is the way to to actually see the reality directly and all that stuff. But now I see this is like, nah, that is just a still another simulation. Does that make sense? It is a simulation of what it's like to be in the real. But in the real, you cannot be in the real with, you know, with help, because then that would be induced, right? And it may be quite close to that, but not quite. Anyway, this is why a lot of people who take psychedelics um, don't really leave the matrix. They become like inflated version of themselves, still part of the matrix. Look at all this Superman French. Know what I'm saying? That's what's up. So, and this is what I do, but I do it for real. If you're on the fence of booking the session, book a session. And you'll see what I mean. Now, like I said, that is not ending. It's once you place the attention there, once you figure out what kind of attention to give, and there seems to be 4 different permutations of attention that signifies air, which is that, earth, which is that, fire, which is that, and then, of course, water, which is that, you know. And when you mix them all together, you get prima materia, and that is the beginning of the creation. Anything that you create within the matrix, you know what I'm trying to say? Come on. Enough with that shit. And look, like, what I'm saying in obviously this calibration of consciousness and investigation, this process of taking something that matrix try to inject to you, and you alchemizing that and turning it and liberating that energy, is not a joke. No, it depends on the person, of course, but it was not a joke for me. It is, when I started this, it was a I could even say life-threatening to genuinely and actually to unplug from the matrix, not this simulated unplugging where just somebody just realized that they're being had. That's not being out of the matrix. That's just you realizing that you are in it. It's not the same as being out of it. And then usually people, when they realize that they're in it, they're like, oh my god, I'm being had. And then they try, the first thing what they do is they try to create the rule set for themselves, how to navigate this reality so that doesn't happen to them. But then they're still not out, they're still part of it, and they're gonna have to create some sort of like a tyrannical system if there was a type of simping system. You see what I'm trying to say? And this is the joke about the matrix. You see this right now in a society. It was leaning way too much into simping. It destroyed, women, turned them into complete. I know what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't even want to say, but there's that. Every single person, there's a potential for that every single person to be the free version of them, the unique version of them, but they're trapped in a matrix, And then another group of people coming in and say, like, we're going to be contra simping. So we are going to create these rules, and I'm going to force everybody and women, to obey these rules. you know. And if these rules can be healthy and good, we call them boundaries, but it's not enough. It's important, but it's not enough. If you just keep on setting these rules and you're still seeing that like the energy is still leaking, and you're gonna be ending up playing this whack-a-mole game, and then ending up realizing that, oh my god, now I created so many rules to control this thing and I still cannot, right? So you go overboard. But some of the rules, which are to me is very basic, being a crook and a whore is legal. That's just like very simple. There's all the permutations of being a crook and all the permutations of being a whore. That's supposed to be illegal in a society. If you do that, you're gonna have a good rule set for your society. But that will apply pressure on the other side, like I said before, on the alchemy, and you're gonna have to make sure that these people can calibrate their consciousness so they can be taking that energy that it is in the stream and putting that energy into another stream, which is of the soul. And this is what I do. This is what we do. I assume I'm not the only one here, you know. I know that I'm not the only one because I know people who are capable of this thing, and therefore I'm not the only one. But again, I don't know how many people are actually capable. To me, it seems that almost everybody is capable. Almost. I say almost because with some people I tried and it's just not working. But every single person that asks me that, it would 100% of the time it works. But if I try to show it to somebody who's not asking for that, because otherwise, you know, they would be curious about it, they seem to go, does not compute, kind of thing. But the few people who got that, you know, who has that capacity, and there's in the matrix, and then they recognize that, oh, there's this other energy that is not boring, it's beautiful, it's mysterious, and they're very attracted to that energy. And these are the real ones. And these are the real ones that may be still part of the matrix, but feeling deep down in their heart that like they want to pop out of that, you know. And this is sometimes where it becomes quite tricky, because a person wants to, but then at the same time it's not as easy to go to all this transformation, you know, because it is a transformation. While your life is set in a specific rule set in specific ways as a clockwork, and it has to be like this, right? And this is what I've noticed, that people are trying to take me off my this frame that is my life, which is unique. And if I take myself out of that frame, I'm back in the matrix, right? So if I try to appease the people who are in the matrix, I'm taking myself out of my own life. So that's why I end up being an invitation. If I feel that the energy is flowing really well for this one particular thing, and I'm creating this in my imagination, I know this is going to be a banger. And so I invite everybody to participate in this thing that I'm creating, you know. And people who can, they do, and people who can't, they can't. You see, but I cannot sacrifice this. Does that make sense? Like, any participation in the matrix with any kind of person or space-time, whatever, right? Like, it's for the alchemical purposes. It's to release that energy. And you also may say, like, why are you so motivated to this? Because I realized that this is the only thing that I'm being asked of, is to release the trapped energy into this infinite circulation and grow that meaning, grow the soul, and shrink the ego. That's my work. And this is the game, and it is possible, it's limited, You can keep taking that energy out of it, and simulation is going to be like beep pop, human music, like in Rick and Morty. And this is what you see right now, that the energy is being taken away by me and other people who to take that trapped energy and release it. Then the simulation loses its power, loses its computational capacities. You know, um, you see, and this is non-negotiable. All of that trapped energy that is a simulation in the matrix must be released. And so this is why you would say, like, why would you help another person, like, or the person that you don't know? Like, I wouldn't, honestly speaking, I wouldn't, because I I see how people function in the matrix, and it's just the most manipulative, cunning, deceitful, dishonest, disgusting way of living, that my first instinct is to, you know, but what you gonna do? Jail everybody? So of course that's not gonna work. Then you realize I gotta siphon this energy out from the entire system, so people little by little are becoming better human beings and they have more coherence. And those who resist, um, they cannot survive in the environment where there's such a high coherence. And honestly, like this question whether the person is fully NPC or there is this soul there, it's a good question. And I know, and sometimes I think some people are fully NPC. And given the fact that when they are, uh, you know, no ego, they die. You see, like shrinking the ego or destroying the ego, which is, again, I'm saying this is just one thing that you just, like this Death Star, that you keep on taking that energy from the Death Star into the Light Star. That seems to be the process. Some people will wake up and others will die because they never been alive in the first place. So it's just basically what I'm trying to say is that soul will prevail, and all the people with souls are fine, and all the people with no souls, again, I don't know if this is the case, but this seems that some people are just purely playing the character, and that's it. Then anyway, I don't want to digress on this side of the subject. Going back to this idea that there's only one ego, which is the game, and it's the game is to take that energy from the incoherent level, make it into coherent, turning into the meaning, from the meaning to a thing, right, or event or experience that is real, that has that blissful, meaningful quality to it when you're experiencing it. You see, and that's what I call, what do I call it? Direct living, or the art of living, or direct experience. This is, if the matrix is a simulation and everything in there is an NPC, and even if the person is saying like, oh, I am aware that this is an NPC reality, that does not make that person non-NPC. That's another thing. You have all these NPCs talking about how to escape the matrix. You see, that's the ridiculous thing. And it's usually about beliefs, you know. And I'm saying now, no, it's about the opposite. I'm saying that it's about eye of a needle. It's about going through it yourself. It's to alchemizing negative feeling. Nothing to do with the beliefs. That's the only thing that the only way that you can pop on the other side. Not to say that I'm not something sucked in by it, because, and it's okay. Like, I don't take this anymore personally, because sometimes I'm like sucked into it, right? Like, it's just like, and then I'm like, whoa, I got sucked into it. It's like, why did I get sucked into it? It's like, okay, there's something there to alchemize it. It's like, well, I've had this feeling before. I know what it's all about. Why am I need to go through this again? The thing is that that's what's happening. That's why you have to go through it. The fact is that simulation is finite, and these tests are going to be easier and easier for you to deal with. And even though they may seem like, oh, this is already something that I've dealt with, right? Nevertheless, it's there for you to deal with. And also, I have to say, the seed, the germ, the flower, alchemy is the first step. Theurgy is the second. Thaumaturgy is the third. But and then physiology is the fourth. I always say that. But it's very important to go through all of that and not to get stuck on one thing. You don't get stuck just on alchemy and not doing theurgy, because then, you know, you're not using that peaceful bliss energy. You may be just like, you know, staying in there, which is not okay. You gotta use it. You gotta create meaning out of it. Then when you have the meaning, you may also say like, oh, this is so freaking dope, it's so cool, that you don't go into the mind. You have to go into the mind and create experiences, things out of it. And then you have to obviously figure out of how to rearrange the physical reality, which is physiology. In essence, is to rearrange the physical, navigate and rearrange the physical and digital reality. Okay? And so we have the reality, which is physical, imaginality, which is astral. Then we have meaning, which is causal. And then we have, what do we have? Mystery, or truth, rather, the truth. And the truth is always this mysterious thing. Okay, so we're not skipping the beat on any of these things. That's what I've noticed, is that I may be really good at alchemizing, you know, and really good at just churning that energy out. But then if I'm not using it in the theurgy, then there's something is missing, and then it feels like, okay, this things are not quite on, you know. And then you find that like, oh, there's one of those you know, vibrations that you have not been, the melodies that you have not played, but you have to. And that may be in regular terms speaking, it is maybe like the enjoyment of food. It may be enjoyment of the presence, enjoyment of the masculine, enjoyment of the feminine. Could be loving someone, because it's a relationship, the world of relationships. Being loved, it's another type of vibration. Loving someone and being loved, in this, it's another type of vibration. Whereas in the white light bliss area, there is no distinction, is all one. But over here, there is loving somebody and being loved. Both of these are necessary. That's what I've noticed, is that because if you have one, which is like being loved but not loving somebody, or loving somebody but not being loved, the reality is going to be a bit quite messed up, you know. And this is like this dark little corner that you find out on this side, which is a vulnerability for you to be sucked in back into the matrix, right? So just because you're alchemizing energies, it does not excuse you from, you know, not doing theurgy, and does not even excuse you from not doing thaumaturgy or physiurgy. You have to be functioning on all the levels to take that energy from the matrix and grow another reality fully, and keep on doing it over and over again and not skipping the beat on any of this. This is the only way that can live not in the matrix, by using the matrix, and building the empire on the ruins of the matrix. This is the butterfly and the caterpillar. And this is the work that you do, like and it's not the 9 to 5 work, which is of course just a matrix waste of time, but it is real work. It is real work. Which keeps you healthy. And sometimes like I'm questioning this whole thing, but it is so real that anybody else who are also touching this side, and as soon as if they pop on this side, they tell me how it all is. I don't have to tell them anything. They see this, like, oh, it's like that. Yeah, it's like that. Yeah. Oh shit, it's like that. So once you pop in, you see things. And so because I know that there are other people, they report the same things when they pop on this side, I know that I'm not completely lost my mind, because that question may arise given the fact that like not many people who live a life like that, not many people see matrix as something to release trapped energy and to create something nice and beautiful and new, and that it requires all these different levels of the game so the energy does not go back into the matrix. So you cannot have any weakness in alchemy, theurgy, thaumaturgy, or physiurgy. Everything has to be locked tight. And so that is the primary challenge. Only then you can talk about real relationships, real love, real success. You see? There's few people who live life like that, I know. But then you see other people who sort of resistant to this. I've had this experience. I felt like this freaking Truman Show. But then now I watch the same people who try to convince me that like I'm losing my mind, or that this is not right or whatever, or like that I'm being weird. Now I watch them and I can see clearly that they're playing a character. They're not unique. Their life been lived millions of times. It's the most boring thing ever. Everything is predictable. So, and I'm not saying that like having this, if you want to have a family, it's not forbidden to have a family on this side, but then the family is going to be real. It's going to be real family. It's not going to be just people pretending to play the family. You see? And to me, that was not enough to play the pretend family. If you have a family, if you have a wife, if you have a husband, it has to be real. It cannot be pretend, because it's not real. It's all programmed, and this is why people wonder like, oh, why women cheat? Why men cheat? Why? Dude, it's a program. They can't help it. They're running the script. Oh, I fell in love and this like cheated on me, and now my heart is broken, and now it's and when is my twin flames gonna come in? And it's like all this like Jesus fucking Christ. Fuck all of that noise. Yes, I mean, um, you still need to have a type of what I could, I would call culture. You have to have your own culture, not your own culture, but there is a culture, this kind of Renaissance type culture, that is real. That you have real art, real people, not that pop nonsense, but you see the real art, the real people, real beauty, real awesomeness, real art, real science, real craft. It's there. And some of it already is popping out. Like some people are, you know, have popularity, quote unquote, and some um, authenticity, or a high degree of authenticity, I should say, with 20% of the time being an NPC to 80% of the time being real. And so that's what we have right now. Cheers. Okay. And you know, I would like to have more people living life holistically and seeing that it is financially viable. It's totally possible. You don't have to do 9 to 5. That is just a belief system. That you don't have to make excuses of why you can't be free. You can still live a life externally seemingly like normal in matrix life and be completely and totally free. And like I said, I would like more people to be living life like that through this direct experience, through this amazingness, through this, but I don't have this luxury right now. I have moments where some people are alchemizing, calibrating energy themselves. So I hang out with these people sometimes, but still, it's very few people. Other people, they get that Cinderella effect. They just come online and then fall back asleep. But honestly, like, one of the main reasons I was thinking, like, why am I doing all of this? Besides the fact that there's no other way, in that is the way to play this game, and that is what is right. So whether you like it or not, it's just the way. Like, you just have to accept it. That's just the way it is. That you're either gonna be falling asleep and having the matrix life, or pop out of the matrix and start creating the real life. But what you're gonna have to create, you see, on this side, you get nothing unless you create it. That's the drawback of this. In the matrix, everything is like, if you just give in to this, like, everything is given. Oh yeah, this, we're going to put you in this right position. This is where you are right now. You can climb the corporate ladder, or you can climb the business ladder and whatever. Like, well, we're gonna allocate the place for you, and you don't have to worry about it, and you're gonna eat the bugs and be happy. you know Everything's given for you. It's easy. You just fall asleep into the matrix and you just live that fucking boring ass life that you seek pleasure and avoid pain. Or you become responsible for everything. If you haven't created it, you don't have it. But it's also fun knowing that, like, everything that you create, it's yours. And it's not like every single micromanaging detail. No, but you see what I'm trying to say? The quality of the experience, the everything, it has to be created. Which by the way, I'll have to say something about this synchronicity, right? There is a matrix synchronicity that is there to fuck you over. So these people who uh, believe system spiritual, they see these things, and it starts leading them, right? It starts leading them. Oh, this is a sign. I have to do another ayahuasca. Oh, okay, then go do another ayahuasca. And then they come back from this ayahuasca. Oh, ayahuasca told me that they have to uh, be with two women, not one but two women. Oh, ayahuasca told you that? Yeah, and ayahuasca also told me that they have to impregnate them both. Okay, sounds to me like there's some Luciferian fucking bullshit, and it's everything's lust based and some spawn of a devil. That's what it sounds like to me. Ayahuasca, fuck you, ayahuasca. You see what I'm trying to say? These are belief system spiritual, and they all sorts of signs in the simulation. Yeah, sure. If you believe it's going to give you some signs. It's going to give you synchronicity. It's going to seem like, oh my god, this is meant to be, all that fucking shit. But if that you're still seeking, if that incoherence is gone, it's still you're still looping a simulation. There was one episode in Rick and Morty, which, by the way, the new episode came out, and I know that some fans say that after they changed the I don't want to spoil it to you, but in the sixth season, or between sixth and the seventh season, they changed the voice over actor. It was always the same guy, the original guy, but they changed it. They got two different actors to play the Morty and Rick, and so some fans say that kind of affected the soul of the series. I don't know. Maybe, these things are real. Like, people behind it and their energy behind it matters. But it's still pretty good, man. I'm still enjoying it. But anyway, season 7, episode 10, I think it's called Black Hole or something, or The Hole, something like that. And basically it was this hole in the bathroom. In the bathroom. If you pop in this hole, you ending up facing all your worst fears, and it's a simulation, right? And you pop in that hole, and yeah, if you go pass through it and you don't say I surrender, I give in to the matrix, you ending up being free and living a real world. And in that world where Morty already thought that he's out of it, and then figuring it out that it's a simulation of him being out of it. And he figured out through how Rick was being way too nice to him. So it's like, now, Rick would say something mean by now, and then he realized, oh my god, I'm still in the hole. So, you see what I'm trying to say? You have to watch out for that. Because the simulation will simulate the enlightenment. Simulation will simulate the freedom. It will do that. It is limited through the pleasure, and everything's going to have to be like pleasure coated. And the feature is always there is a crash. Have an experience and then you feel horrible, That's the feature of the Matrix. But it will simulate that for you. And then you're going to have to chase it again, and use what I'm trying to say. But the reality, the true reality, has the quality of infinite. And it's hard work. But it's getting easier. the more the matrix is getting weaker, the stronger the holistics becomes. I'm happy to know that this is it. I'm happy to know that it's very slippery and tricky, and I know the quality of experience when I'm in the matrix, and I know that sometimes throughout the day, when these negative feelings start popping up, and I start seeing that, like now I start thinking and reminiscing and ruminating, I should say. And this is like, what? Look at that! Like, I'm back into the same shit. Okay, where is it coming from? Here. All right. Burn it through it. You see? And you have to be careful with that. Like, I'll tell you something. You have to eat as much as you can handle. What you don't want is you don't want to go way too deep into the darkness in the matrix, hang out with people that are too dark or whatever, places that are way too dark, and try to handle that. That may be way too much for you. So then becomes like, and being able to engulf the darkness and digest it, or being engulfed by the darkness. When you're engulfed by the darkness, to get the fuck out is way more difficult than just having a little bite of the darkness, processing it. Having a little bite of the darkness, processing. This is correct. And sometimes I know when I'm like, yes, there is a way to get out, and I know how to get out. It requires incredible willpower and energy and all these kind of things to get the fuck out by yourself. What's happening here? But it's possible. And so if that happens to me, I can get out, right? So I'm fine. Like if I'm engulfed by the darkness, I know how to get out. There's something inside of me that is just not not surrendering to it, not even having capacity to do so. Okay, so it's best to keep always in the light and eat the darkness, not to get engulfed by it. That's just the way I can say to describe this process, because you may have this question, what am I supposed to just alchemize the entire matrix? The answer is yes. But how do you eat the elephant? You eat the elephant one bite at a time. Ultimately, yes. The game is you keep on doing it over and over again. And it is shrinking, it is finite, and it is limited. So there is an end to it. Some people may say, like, well, there's no end to it. There is an end to it. Keep doing. Learn that, enjoy this process, and understand that this is how your life is now. And yes, you have moments where you're like brutal, when you have to go through it, you go through it. There's that bliss, there's that meaning, there's the rainbows, and there's the image of what you want to create in life. And then there's a physical experience of it. I do get sometimes frustrated where, like, I seem to do the work and everything, but I can't seem to get the people out of it. Some people. It's like the gravity of the matrix is at this point may seem to be stronger than the gravity of the light or the soul. The ego gravity is stronger than and some people, for some people, it's already that the light is stronger, and some people that they still give in to the gravity of the darkness. And so then when I see this, of course, the frustration is that I'm trying to create my dream. This is what I want. But of course, to create my dream, I need other people, as part of it. And so then I realized that, I can't work on it on an individual kind of basis. Whatever challenge from whatever or whomever or whatever challenge comes along, that's the next piece that I have to deal with. I think that's sort of like it's predetermined. I don't think you have a choice about this, and that may need to go through, another set of hell. So then there could be a stronger gravity to the light for this particular group of people, which could be participating in co-creative process of my dream, and that turns out to be their dream, just because of this collaborative and cohesive nature of Holistix side. So that's how I see it. And this game, this Earth game, is about that. Keep shrinking the matrix, grow the Holistics. Keep shrinking the matrix, grow the Holistics. And I'm learning how to do all these like 4 levels of the game. And whoever wants to learn, I teach. But it does seem like there's major battles that's already been won, not through all these people who babble all the time and just say words, and it's just no, or imagination, part of the matrix, and then they see what I'm trying to say. That energy does not mean anything. The only is if you take that incoherent energy and you alchemize. And some people do this without any kind of help or training. They just discover it. They discover like, fuck, I can't go anywhere. Well, I'm not gonna go here, there, or there. Where can I go? Eye of a needle. Shit, I have to face all of that? Okay, fine. And then they place their attention on the source of the suffering. And then they see something of incredible quality emerging. Of course, there may be the process of that. I know that that's the only way out. Holy fuck, holy fuck, holy fuck. And as soon as you just stop trying to change it and you just give complete attention, there's a lot that to dissolve right now as I speak. I've noticed that there's something about the videos, and sometimes I'm thinking like, what's the point of making these videos? Like, it's honestly, to me, this is like not something that I this format I don't like. Like, I like making videos, but I like to, for example, speak with somebody. I want to see the person. Like, this is why I like these one-on-one sessions, or like a you know uh, podcast style, talk about stories and life and whatnot. That what I like as well. But to speak with somebody that is not specific person, like for example, like I don't know who I'm talking to, right? It's a type of broadcasting, and sure, it's a type of communication. Broadcasting is legit, but it's usually about announcing something, and if you watch, like, listening over into conversation, well, that's legit for me. But talking to the camera like this, it's weird. I call you audience, and what is audience? You know what I'm trying to say? You're not the audience. You have a name. You have life, um, with aspirations and ambitions to become a real boy, like Pinocchio or gal. like Pinocchio. You know, and I ask this question. I say like, yeah, you know, as soon as I get enough people to do one sessions, I'll do one sessions, and I'll stop this. You know, but in the meantime, I mean, you work with what you have. You work with what you have. That's what I have right now. Also, it is a part of the process. Me making the video puts the challenge on the alchemy. I don't know how it works and why it works, but me making video challenges me. And if I feel like life is too good and I need some work, I make a video and I got something to do. You see. Uh, but now I'm getting a hang of it, you know. It's today I just woke up and just considering a lot of things, and I was like, there was already this thing inside of me, this gnawing feeling, um, that is to do, like I said, that is to do with relationships, whether it's to the things, to people, and stuff like that. In this particular case, it was to people, and it was the whole thing, you know, babbling nonsense in my head. Is like, hold on, stop. Where is it coming from? This alchemy. Okay, doing some alchemy. All right, cool. Is that enough? No. What is this other thing that is just not there yet? And then you realize like, oh, that's just one of this theurgy states that haven't, you know, of course I'm saying something that very in a very kind of technical terms, but there's another way of saying it in much more gooey way. But then I found this thing that is missing at the theurgy level, and then allow that feeling to come online, come alive, and realizing, oh, because I was not vibrating on that feeling, or because there's still kind of dark over there, that is why what I've created was lacking that component. And it's a big work, and I do feel like this is changing the entire system so I could have my own little life that is awesome. And that's the thing. The challenge is great because you're generally out of the matrix. Because within the matrix, manifesting these things, you know, it's still empty, void of meaning. But to create an entire new stream of life, it requires great work. That's why they call it great work. And you know, during the 15th century, I think in Italy, there were some gangsters that came in, pretty gangster souls, who just started like alchemizing the crap out of it, and all sorts of events start taking place. But you know, they created the Renaissance. That blooming, that booming period. And then in the beginning of the U.S. creation, there was also this Renaissance feeling, you know, and which ended with Tesla probably being the last famous alchemist. And then it became this joke. And then there's no great people, there's a whole bunch of talking heads. Everybody wants to be great. Everybody is just like look at me, I am great, aren't I? Look at me, I'm great, aren't I? It's like, no, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Great people don't want to be great. They just want to do great things. So, okay, the game. When the real player plugs in the game, it starts taking the game uh, trapped energy, releasing into this holistic from the matrix to holistics. And if the gangster players log out or go away for some reason, the matrix, all that energy comes back into the matrix again, and in dark times again. It will always go back to this natural state, which I think is 50-50 right now. That's why the only way is to when the players play the game. And technically, if you look at the condition of the world and you say who to blame, you can't blame the NPCs. And that the challenge is that if the players play the game correctly, that is being shrunken and the real civilization is being born. And if that is not being done, then the players are not playing the game, or maybe they're not in the game. Which then, when I see it this way, I'm like, okay, that's my fault then. That is my fucking fault. Or I shouldn't say fault, maybe that is my responsibility. And you should look at this the same way. If you don't like the way the world works, change it. Create a different world. But not through this like, oh, like, yeah, you can do it, yeah. Not that it's another Kool-Aid drinking nonsense, to make yourself feel better. This isn't a fucking joke. This is the most difficult thing that you're ever gonna do or ever gonna be done in the cosmos. It takes a certain type of, almost like a masochistic type of soul, who is capable of transmuting the most horrific feelings that nobody else wants to feel and love it. Most of the time when you say this to people, they shit their pants and say, I don't ever want to look at this. Sounds horrific and horrible. Like, whatever, I'll just fall asleep in the matrix here. Now it sounds horrific and horrible, and it is so at the beginning. But once you go through it, it's not so anymore. Like I said, you start loving it. You don't have a concept this as a negative thing, But to figure out how to alchemize the energies where you don't know what you're doing and you're trying to, that is when it's tough. But nobody can teach you. You see, like, you gotta swim, sink or swim. People can point at you and say, like, hey, this is now the game. Like, you see this lava, you have to jump in and survive. What? Yeah, goodbye. What the fuck? So yeah, I know. But later generations, when they join playing this game, it's easier. It's much easier. And the later generations, they do join but they do join like a because the eye of a needle becomes massive. and it becomes super easy to go through it. And then you can ask anybody to do it, and anybody will be able to do it. And then they will say, that is easy. That is piece of cake. Yeah, because the door is open. But somebody have to fight for keep that door open. And I think that's a fair thing to say. All right, guys. It's over 1 hour. Cheers. Yum, yum. And I'll see you in the next one.